The sun blazed down on a quiet suburban street, painting the world in warm hues of gold. Emma Thompson, a 10-year-old girl with wide hazel eyes and wispy blonde hair tucked under a fraying baseball cap, stood proudly behind her makeshift lemonade stand. Her sign, written in bold crayon letters, read, "Lemonade for my chemo, $1 per cup." Despite her small stature and frail frame, her smile radiated a resilience that caught the attention of every passerby. It wasn't the kind of neighborhood where you'd expect to see a lemonade stand, especially not one with such a heartbreaking cause. Life had taken a hard turn for Emma when she was diagnosed with leukemia 6 months ago. The news had crushed her single mother, Sarah, who worked tirelessly as a waitress to make ends meet. The medical bills piled up faster than Sarah could manage, and as treatments became more frequent, their financial situation turned dire. But Emma wasn't one to sit around feeling sorry for herself. "If people buy my lemonade, we can save money for my medicine," she had told her mom with a determined glint in her eye. Sarah had hesitated, not wanting Emma to shoulder such a burden at her age, but eventually relented. "All right, kiddo," she had said with a soft smile. "Let's do it together." So there Emma was, standing behind a small wooden table with a jug of freshly squeezed lemonade and a stack of plastic cups. Her mom sat on the porch steps a few feet away, pretending to read a book while keeping a watchful eye on her daughter. Most people who passed by stopped to buy a cup, touched by the sincerity of Emma's effort. Some left kind words or a few extra dollars. "You're a brave little girl," one older man had said as he handed over a $5 bill. Emma's cheeks turned pink with gratitude every time someone encouraged her. It was around mid-afternoon when the sound of an engine roaring down the street grabbed everyone's attention. A dusty black pickup truck rolled to a slow stop in front of Emma's stand. The man who stepped out wasn't someone you'd expect to see in their small neighborhood. Clint Eastwood, yes, the Clint Eastwood, towered over the lemonade stand, his iconic squint and rugged demeanor unmistakable. Dressed in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, he looked like he'd just wandered off the set of one of his westerns. For a moment, everyone froze. Even Emma, who didn't recognize him at first, could tell this man was somebody important. "Lemonade, huh?" Clint said in his gravelly voice, tipping his cowboy hat back slightly. "Yes, sir," Emma replied, her voice steady but curious. $1 a cup." Clint's lips curved into a faint smile as he pulled out his wallet. "That's a fair price." He handed Emma a crisp $100 bill. Her eyes widened, and so did her mom's. "Mister, I don't have change for that," Emma stammered. "Don't need any," Clint replied with a shrug. "You keep it." He leaned down slightly, meeting Emma's gaze. "You're doing something good here, kid. Keep at it." Emma's mom hurried over, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Mr. Eastwood, that's too generous." Clint waved her off. "Can't put a price on hope," he said simply. Then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, he turned and walked back to his truck. But before he got in, Clint paused and looked back at Emma. "You remind me of someone," he said almost to himself. "A fighter." With that, he tipped his hat and drove off, leaving Emma, Sarah, and the small crowd that had gathered in stunned silence. For a moment, all they could do was stare after the truck as it disappeared down the street. The excitement lingered even after Clint was gone. Word spread like wildfire through the neighborhood, and people began showing up in droves to buy Emma's lemonade. By the end of the day, her little donation jar was stuffed with bills and coins. When Emma finally counted the money, her eyes lit up. "Mom, we made more than enough for my treatment this month." Sarah hugged her daughter tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You're incredible, Emma," she whispered. Emma grinned up at her mom. "We're incredible," she said firmly. Little did they know, Clint Eastwood's brief visit was only the beginning of something much bigger. In the days that followed Clint Eastwood's unexpected visit, Emma's lemonade stand transformed into something much more than a simple roadside setup. It became a symbol of hope and resilience in the neighborhood, sparking a wave of support that no one could have predicted. People who had never met Emma before came by, some just to drop off donations, others to offer words of encouragement. The sight of the small girl with a baseball cap and a bright smile selling lemonade for such a noble cause tugged at the heartstrings of everyone who heard her story. Emma's mom, Sarah, found herself overwhelmed with emotion. She hadn't expected this outpouring of support, and she definitely hadn't expected the media attention that began to follow. Local newspapers picked up the story first. Then a nearby TV station ran a segment on Emma, capturing her earnest pitch for lemonade for chemo and recounting Clint Eastwood's surprising appearance. Sarah watched as reporters and strangers lined up in front of their house, eager to see the little girl who had touched so many hearts. Emma, ever the trooper, handled it all with a mixture of excitement and humility. Every morning she'd put on her cap, set up her stand, and flash her $1,000,000 smile. It didn't matter how tired she was from her treatments or how she sometimes felt the fatigue deep in her bones. She had a goal, and she was determined to meet it. But even as the days grew brighter for Emma, shadows still loomed over their household. Medical expenses were a heavy weight, and no matter how much money they raised, it never seemed enough. Sarah knew that one good month couldn't fix all their problems, and the thought of what might happen if the money ran out kept her awake at night. One afternoon, while Sarah was sipping coffee on the porch, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, seeing an unknown number. Reluctantly, she picked it up, expecting another call from a reporter or a bill collector. "Hello, is this Sarah Thompson?" a voice on the other end asked. "Yes, this is she," Sarah replied, her voice tight with apprehension. "My name is Tom Wells. I'm Clint Eastwood's assistant. He wanted me to check in on you and see how you and your daughter are doing." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Oh, wow, I didn't expect that. We're doing well thanks to Mr. Eastwood's help. Please tell him how grateful we are." "That's good to hear," Tom said, a warm tone in his voice. "Listen, Clint was really moved by your daughter's courage. He was wondering if he could visit again, maybe bring some of his friends along. You know, help drum up more support for Emma." Sarah was stunned. "Are you serious? That would be amazing. I mean, of course, we'd love that." "Great. I'll be in touch to work out the details. Hang in there, Sarah. You've got a lot of people rooting for you and Emma." As the call ended, Sarah sat there, staring at her phone, hardly able to believe what she'd just heard. Clint Eastwood wanted to come back, and this time, he wasn't coming alone. It felt surreal, like a dream she didn't dare wake up from. Later that evening, she broke the news to Emma. "Guess what, honey? Mr. Eastwood wants to visit us again, and he's bringing some of his friends, too." Emma's eyes widened. "Really? Like famous people?" "Yeah, really famous people," Sarah said, grinning at the disbelief on her daughter's face. "He wants to help you raise more money for your treatment." Emma's mouth opened in awe, and then she burst into a fit of giggles. "Mom, that's so cool. Do you think he'll bring anyone from that movie you like? The cowboy one?" Sarah laughed, feeling a wave of hope wash over her. For the first time in a long time, things seemed to be looking up. Maybe, just maybe, they were going to make it through this after all. The news of Clint Eastwood's second visit spread quickly, and the anticipation was palpable. People began talking about it in coffee shops and sharing the story online. Everyone was eager to see who would show up this time, and how they could help little Emma in her fight. Then, on a sunny Saturday morning, a caravan of cars pulled up in front of Emma's house. The neighborhood seemed to hold its breath as Clint Eastwood stepped out of his truck, followed by a group of recognizable faces, actors, musicians, and even a famous chef. It was like Hollywood had come to their street, and the spectacle left everyone in awe. Emma stood behind her lemonade stand, her jaw dropping as she recognized some of the celebrities approaching. They waved and greeted her like old friends, their smiles genuine and their interest sincere. "Hi, Emma," Clint said, leaning down to shake her hand. "We brought some friends who wanted to meet you and try some of your famous lemonade." Emma couldn't help but laugh. "Really? They want to drink my lemonade?" "Absolutely," Clint replied with a twinkle in his eye. "And they're paying double today, just so you know." As the celebrities lined up for a cup of lemonade, cameras flashed, and the crowd grew larger. Emma's little corner of the world was now the center of attention, and for that one beautiful day, her worries seemed miles away. But the real magic happened when a microphone was handed to Clint Eastwood, and he addressed the crowd with a sincerity that cut through all the glitz and glamour. "Emma's fighting something tougher than any of us can imagine," he said, his voice steady. "She's facing it head-on, with more courage than most people show in a lifetime, and she's got her whole community behind her. So let's show her that she's not alone in this." His words sent a ripple of emotion through the crowd, and for the first time, Emma understood that what she was doing mattered, not just to her, but to everyone who saw her fight. As the warm afternoon sun cast long shadows across the neighborhood, Emma's street became a hub of excitement and activity. Clint Eastwood's heartfelt words had electrified the crowd, and the celebrities he brought weren't just there for appearances, they were actively pitching in. Emma's lemonade stand transformed into a bustling station, with famous faces taking turns helping her serve cups of lemonade to eager customers. Sarah stood to the side, watching in amazement as actors and musicians worked alongside her daughter. She couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat as she saw Emma laughing and chatting with people she'd only ever seen on TV. One of the guests, a well-known chef named Marcus Tate, approached Emma's table with a curious look. "What's your secret, young lady?" "This lemonade is fantastic," he said, sipping from his cup. Emma giggled, shy but proud. "It's my grandma's recipe. She used to say fresh lemons make all the difference." Marcus grinned. "Fresh lemons, huh? Well, you've got a knack for making something special. Maybe we should team up someday." Emma's eyes lit up. "Like, make a lemonade restaurant?" "Why not?" Marcus replied with a wink. "Anything's possible, kiddo." Meanwhile, Clint and his friends were busy turning the event into something much bigger than a simple lemonade stand. One of the musicians pulled out a guitar and began strumming a soft melody, drawing the crowd closer. People swayed to the music as more neighbors joined in, curious about the commotion. Then an idea sparked in Sarah's mind. She leaned over to Clint, who was chatting with a few locals. "Mr. Eastwood," she began nervously, "what if we made this into a fundraiser, like a real event? We could collect donations instead of just selling lemonade." Clint raised an eyebrow, considering her suggestion. "I like the way you think, Sarah," he said. "Let's make it happen." Before long, the gathering turned into a full-blown fundraiser. Clint's assistant set up a donation table, while volunteers from the neighborhood spread the word through social media. The celebrities used their platforms to amplify the cause, posting pictures and videos of Emma's stand with captions like, "Support this brave little girl in her fight against cancer. Every dollar counts." The response was overwhelming. People from all over the city began arriving, some bringing checks, others simply wanting to show their support. The donation jar quickly overflowed, and Sarah had to grab a cardboard box to hold the extra money. As the event grew, Emma's energy seemed to shine brighter. Despite her battle with leukemia, she had an uncanny ability to light up the space around her. She greeted every visitor with a smile, thanking them for their kindness and support. At one point, a man in a sharp suit approached the stand and handed Emma an envelope. "This is from my company," he said. "We heard about your story and we wanted to contribute." Emma opened the envelope carefully, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was a check for $10,000. Her mouth fell open in shock. "Wow, that's so much," she exclaimed, looking up at the man with wide eyes. "Thank you." The man smiled warmly. "You're an inspiration, Emma. Keep being brave." As night began to fall, strings of lights were hung across the yard, casting a soft glow over the gathering. People lingered, unwilling to leave the magical atmosphere that had formed. Clint Eastwood took the microphone again, his deep voice resonating through the quiet hum of the crowd. "I think we've all learned something from Emma today," he said, his gaze sweeping over the audience. "Sometimes it takes the smallest among us to remind us of what really matters. Courage, kindness, and hope. This little girl is fighting a battle most of us can't even imagine, and she's doing it with a smile on her face. Let's make sure she knows she's not alone." The crowd erupted into applause, and Emma felt her heart swell with gratitude. She couldn't believe so many people cared about her fight. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she wasn't just battling cancer, she was winning. As the night wound down and the last visitors trickled away, Emma and Sarah sat on the porch, surveying the remnants of the event. The donation box was filled to the brim, and the air still buzzed with the excitement of the day. "Mom?" Emma said softly, leaning against Sarah's shoulder. "Do you think this will help?" Sarah wrapped an arm around her daughter, her voice thick with emotion. "Honey, I think this will do more than help. I think this might change everything." But what neither of them knew was that this was just the beginning. The story of Emma's lemonade stand, and the generosity of Clint Eastwood and his friends, was about to go viral in a way no one could have anticipated. The next morning, Sarah woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing endlessly on the nightstand. Still groggy from the whirlwind of the previous day, she reached over and squinted at the screen. Dozens of notifications flashed across it, text messages, emails, and social media alerts. She sat up, her heart racing. Something had happened. "Mom!" Emma's voice called from the living room. "Come here, quick!" Sarah threw on her robe and hurried out, finding Emma glued to the small TV they kept in the corner. On the screen was a news anchor, smiling warmly as she recounted the story of a brave little girl selling lemonade for her chemo treatment. Clips from the fundraiser played in the background, Emma handing a cup of lemonade to Clint Eastwood, a crowd cheering, and a donation box overflowing with cash. "This is incredible," the anchor said. "What started as a simple lemonade stand has grown into a movement, thanks to the generosity of Clint Eastwood and others who've rallied behind Emma Thompson in her fight against leukemia. And now, people across the country are pitching in to help." Sarah's jaw dropped. "It's on the news?" she murmured, barely able to believe her eyes. "It's everywhere, Mom," Emma exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Look!" She grabbed Sarah's phone and opened social media, showing her post after post about the lemonade stand. Celebrities were sharing it, ordinary people were commenting, and hashtags like Lemonade for Emma and Stand with Emma were trending. "I can't believe this," Sarah whispered, sinking onto the couch. "How did this happen so fast?" Emma grinned. "Maybe Clint Eastwood has a magic hat," she said, giggling. But as the day unfolded, it became clear that this was no small ripple. It was a tidal wave. Calls started pouring in, from reporters wanting interviews to organizations offering support. One local charity reached out, offering to match the donations Emma had raised. A famous talk show host even called, inviting Emma and Sarah to appear on their show the following week. Despite the chaos, Sarah tried to keep things grounded. She didn't want Emma to get overwhelmed or lose sight of why they had started the lemonade stand in the first place. But Emma, in her usual cheerful way, seemed to take it all in stride. By noon, a package arrived at their door. It was from Clint Eastwood himself. Emma tore it open eagerly, finding a handwritten note and a small framed picture of her and Clint standing by the lemonade stand. The note read, "Dear Emma, you reminded me that even the smallest acts of kindness can change the world. Keep being the fighter you are. You're inspiring more people than you'll ever know. All the best, Clint." Emma held the picture tightly, her smile softening. "Mom, he's so nice," she said quietly. "He really is," Sarah replied, tears pricking her eyes. As the week went on, the donations kept rolling in. People from all over the country, some even from overseas, sent letters of encouragement and money to help with Emma's treatment. The sheer amount of support was staggering. Sarah had to open a special account just to manage it all, and even then she struggled to keep track of everything. But it wasn't just about the money. The messages that came with the donations were what truly touched their hearts. Letters from cancer survivors, parents who had been in similar situations, and even children who had emptied their piggy banks to send a few dollars. One letter, from a young boy named Caleb, stood out to Emma. "Hi, Emma. I'm 9 years old, and I had cancer too. I know how scary it is, but I also know you can beat it. My mom gave me $20 for my birthday, but I want you to have it instead. You're super brave, and I hope you feel better soon. Your friend, Caleb." Emma read the letter over and over, her chest swelling with a mixture of pride and gratitude. She wrote back to Caleb, thanking him and promising to keep fighting, just like he had. Meanwhile, Sarah began to realize just how much of an impact Emma's story was having. It wasn't just about their family anymore. It was about all the people who felt connected to Emma's bravery and determination. One evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Sarah sat on the porch scrolling through her phone. She paused on a post from a woman who had shared Emma's story. "My husband lost his battle with cancer last year, and it's been hard to find hope again. But seeing Emma's courage has reminded me that there's still good in the world. Thank you for sharing your light, Emma." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she read the words. She realized that, in her own way, Emma was healing more than just herself. She was bringing hope to people who desperately needed it. As the days passed, the momentum continued to grow. The talk show appearance was just around the corner, and Sarah knew it would take things to the next level. But even as the world's eyes turned toward them, she reminded Emma of one simple truth. This all started because of your heart, sweetie. No matter what happens next, don't ever forget that. And Emma didn't. The big day arrived, Emma and Sarah were whisked away to a bustling TV studio in Los Angeles, where they were set to appear on one of the country's most popular talk shows. Emma was nervous, fidgeting with her baseball cap as they waited backstage, but her mom held her hand tightly, whispering words of encouragement. When the host, a charismatic woman named Diane, introduced them, the audience erupted in applause. Emma stepped onto the stage, clutching her mom's hand, her wide hazel eyes scanning the crowd. For a moment, she looked overwhelmed, but then Diane knelt down to her level and smiled warmly. "Emma, you've inspired so many people with your story," Diane said, her voice gentle. "Can you tell everyone why you started your lemonade stand?" Emma took a deep breath and nodded. "I wanted to help my mom pay for my chemo. She worked so hard and I didn't want her to worry about the money." The audience let out a collective "aw," and Sarah wiped away a tear. Diane continued, "You've raised an incredible amount of money, and people all over the world are rooting for you. How does that make you feel?" Emma's face lit up. "It makes me happy. It's like I have a really big family now. Everyone wants to help, and it makes me feel strong." The crowd cheered, and Diane smiled. "Well, Emma, we have a little surprise for you." Emma's eyes widened. "A surprise?" Diane gestured toward the large screen behind them, which flickered to life. A video began to play, showing messages of support from people across the globe. Kids in classrooms held up signs that said, "We love you, Emma." Cancer survivors shared heartfelt messages, thanking her for her bravery. Even a few celebrities chimed in, including Clint Eastwood himself. "I told you were a fighter," Clint said in the video, tipping his hat. "Keep proving the world wrong, kid." By the time the video ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. Emma clutched her mom's hand, her face glowing with emotion. Diane then turned to Sarah. "Sarah, we know how hard it can be to cover medical expenses, even with all the support you've received. So, we've partnered with a few organizations to make sure you never have to worry about that again." Sarah's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" The screen lit up again, this time showing a check for $250,000. "This is to cover Emma's current treatments and any future medical needs," Diane explained. "And anything left over will go toward creating a foundation in Emma's name to help other kids battling cancer." Sarah gasped, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. The audience erupted into applause, and Emma threw her arms around her mom. "We did it, Mom," she whispered. Diane wasn't done yet. "And there's one more thing, Emma. Remember Marcus Tate, the chef who loved your lemonade? He's offering to work with you to bottle and sell it, with proceeds going to your foundation. What do you think about that?" Emma's jaw dropped. "You mean my lemonade could be in stores?" "That's right," Diane said, laughing. "It'll be your grandma's recipe, helping kids just like you." Emma beamed, and the crowd gave her a standing ovation. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. The money from the talk show covered all of Emma's medical expenses, and the foundation, aptly named Emma's Lemonade Stand for Hope, began helping other families in need. Sarah and Emma dedicated themselves to the cause, pouring their energy into making the foundation a success. Marcus Tate and his team worked closely with Emma to perfect the bottled version of her lemonade. The first batch hit store shelves 6 months later, with a cheerful label that read, "Emma's Lemonade, Sweetness with a Purpose." Each bottle featured a picture of Emma's smiling face and a short blurb about her journey. Sales skyrocketed, with people eager to support the cause. For every bottle sold, a portion of the proceeds went to the foundation, ensuring that Emma's impact would continue to grow. Meanwhile, Emma's health began to improve. Her treatments were grueling, but she faced them with the same determination she'd shown since day one. By the following year, her doctors delivered the news they'd all been praying for. Emma was in remission. When Sarah heard the news, she broke down in tears, hugging Emma tightly. "You did it, sweetheart," she whispered. "You fought so hard, and you won." Emma grinned, her eyes sparkling with joy. "We did it, Mom. Together." Emma's story didn't end there. Her foundation became a beacon of hope for families battling pediatric cancer. They provided financial assistance, emotional support, and even scholarships for survivors. Emma and Sarah traveled the country, speaking at events and sharing their story to inspire others. The lemonade became a nationwide sensation, and Emma was hailed as a symbol of resilience and kindness. She even got to meet some of her heroes, including Clint Eastwood, who remained a loyal supporter of her cause. On the one-year anniversary of the fundraiser that started it all, the neighborhood came together for a special celebration. Emma set up her lemonade stand again, just like she had that first day, but this time it was different. As people lined up for cups of lemonade, Emma looked around at the smiling faces and felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Mom," she said softly, "do you think Grandma would be proud?" Sarah knelt down beside her and smiled. "She'd be more than proud, Emma. She'd be amazed." Years later, Emma would look back on her journey and marvel at how far she'd come. What started as a small act of determination had grown into something far bigger than she could have imagined. She had turned her pain into purpose, proving that even in the darkest moments, hope could shine through. And though life moved on, Emma never forgot the people who helped her along the way, the strangers who donated, the neighbors who rallied, and of course, Clint Eastwood, whose unexpected kindness had sparked a movement. As she prepared to open a new chapter in her life, Emma knew one thing for sure. She would keep fighting, not just for herself, but for every child who needed a little bit of hope and a whole lot of courage.